Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. This is Dr. Mike Ronsisvalle. Hope you're ready to conquer shame and guilt once and for all. If you listened last week, we kind of went over this. We started this process, and I just couldn't do another Wellness Wednesday unless I felt like I did that section on shame and guilt justice. So I thought I'd follow up today and give you guys what to me is kind of the closing argument for shame and guilt, and the closing argument on ultimately the antidote for that chronic shame and guilt in our life. So super glad you're with me. I want to remind everybody, if you're on the Live Well coaching platform, just make sure that you're doing everything you can to try to take advantage of all the resources we have available. The catalog that we have is just building so quickly of all the information we have, and the strategies for healthy living that we've got on Live Well Coaching. It's really kind of staggering, honestly. Just a little bit of a teaser here for you. If you're on the platform, we have just finished our Live Well Coaching chat bot. It's a custom GPT, meaning we've all been playing around with Chat GPT and AI, and what is it, the one on X called Gronk? Is it Gronk, Kim? I think it's Gronk. Now you're going to be able to access our artificial intelligence that has been trained on all of our Live Well content. So all the stuff that we talk about, all the strategies that our 39 clinicians use in therapy, all of the teachings that we've done, all of the books that I've written and articles that I've written over the years, all the articles and works that all of the other therapists, Dr. Trevor's done a lot for Live Well. So as you think about everything that we've done, now we have AI that's been trained on our stuff first. So it's going to be able to talk back to you and give you strategies and recommendations, and just, you can ask it anything. That's the thing with AI, right? Is you can ask it anything. And so we'll just a little teaser. We're beta testing it now, but in the near future, you're going to be able to sort of access that. And I just wanted to tell everybody that we continue to build the platform out for you, and we continue to try to give you all the resources we can to help you live the life you've always wanted, to help you get healthy and stay healthy and live well. So there you have it. All right, so let's go into the second iteration of shame and guilt. Last week we talked about how powerful shame can be. And remember, shame says you're messed up. Guilt says what you did is messed up, right? And sometimes we want to feel guilty. Like it's actually a healthy emotion sometimes to feel guilt. Right? If we do something, if I go in a store this afternoon and I steal $8,700 worth of jewelry, I should feel guilty, as anyone should. Why? Because I did something that's hurting me and hurting other people. It's just not the way to live, to just take other people's stuff. So I want that emotion of guilt. But the whole idea is that when I feel that emotion, my job is to say, okay, what I did, I hate what I did, that behavior. But I love me. I'm okay, right? There's a God that's bigger than me, that's created me, that has a plan for my life, and I can function in that. Our job is to allow ourselves to say, okay, I've got to get shame off the table. This part of me that says I'm not enough. I'm just messed up. It's a matter of time until people see it and recognize it. False guilt, like that guilt that's, if you remember from last week, I'm not done anything that is, hurting me or hurting someone else. I just feel this chronic sense that I'm just messed up and not enough. That's false guilt. That's not the good, healthy guilt. That's the kind of guilt we want to get out of our life. And we said last week, basically the antidote for shame and guilt is vulnerability. Like allowing yourself to just say, you know what, I've got nothing to prove. I'm tired of trying to prove things to everyone. I'm tired of trying to just communicate to people that I'm okay, or communicate to people that I'm worthy or I'm enough. I'm done. And when we can get there and we allow ourselves to just, warts and all, like just show up in relationships and just say, hey, here I am. Here's my strengths. Here's my weaknesses. And in a wholehearted way, I can just be vulnerable and real and authentic. Man, that's when the power of shame just gets destroyed, decimated in our life. But the reason I couldn't just leave it with last week is I wanted to help you understand more about vulnerability and about what it really is. So I've just asked some questions, right? Just think through some of these and begin to consider how vulnerability plays out in your life. So when was the last time you said, I love you first? Think about that. If you're married, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, if you have kids that you're in a relationship with, friends, whatever. When's the last time you took the risk to just say, I love you, man? Now, if you're a guy, I want you to know something, and I'm going to say this over and over and over again. We're not socialized for this. You were not socialized to let your guard down like that easily. So just consider, when's the last time you just said it first? You just got it out there. A lot of you will be like, oh yeah, if someone says I love you, I'll be, I love you too. Love you too. Like, just, okay, I got you. When's the last time you looked at somebody and proactively said, hey, I love you? When's the last time you admitted to someone that you're struggling with something without the other person having to literally pull it out of you? Again, guys, I'm really speaking to you today. When's the last time you allowed yourself to just proactively say, man, I got to tell you, I'm struggling with this. I messed up over here. Man, I've got this issue in my life. It's the thorn in my flesh. And I can't get a hold of it. Most of the time, we wait until we're literally backed in a corner until we're going to admit something like that. Okay, fine. Fine. Yes, okay. I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I was aggressive. I'm sorry I looked at pornography. I'm sorry that I wasn't kind to you. I'm sorry I had an attitude. But it's only when we're pressed and we just feel like, whatever. I'm saying, when's the last time you proactively just went to somebody and said, hey, I just feel like I want to process. I want to get this out there. When's the last time you tried something that literally you knew had a high probability of making you look foolish? Like, I do not know how to do this, but I'm just going to do it anyways. Those questions, if you've done any of those things, congratulations, because you've already practiced vulnerability. Like, that's what it means to be vulnerable. And today, I want to talk to you about that word, vulnerability, that concept. And I want you to understand, we typically really don't even understand what vulnerability means. Because I know for me, before I started to really look at shame a few years ago and understand the power that it had in people's lives, I immediately thought of vulnerability as weakness. So if you would have asked me, Mike, are you vulnerable with someone? I'd be like, no, not if at all possible. I don't want to be that, because that felt weak to me. Now, ironically, for the most part, I've kind of tried to be more genuine than I think I ever would have had I not gone into this field. I certainly wasn't raised like that. That's not kind of part of my family MO, but I because, you're sitting with people every day. I mean, put yourself in that situation, you kind of learn these strategies. And I think kind of genuine with most people, but still, if you would have asked me about that word vulnerable, I'd have been like, no, I don't want to be that though, because that felt weak. But what I've learned about vulnerability, like the true definition of it, is that vulnerability is the most accurate measure of courage that we actually have. I'm going to say that again. Vulnerability is the most accurate measure of courage that we have. And I've spent 25 years, literally 25 years. I don't even like to admit that anymore. It's like I used to say, I've been doing this for 10 years and I felt okay about it. Now I have to say, like, 25 years I've been working with people as a psychologist in the trenches, one-on-one. I've got almost 40,000 hours of face-to-face time with people in clinical offices. That's wild, right? And when you're working with people that are addicted, people that are depressed, people that are experiencing anxiety, trauma, fear, marital problems, ADHD, all the stuff, I've come to believe this after 25 years. The ability to be vulnerable is one of the most powerful tools that we have in healing, in growth, and even in leadership. And last week we talked about this lady, Brené Brown. She's one of the people that first started to talk about shame and vulnerability and wholehearted living. And she's spent 2 decades literally studying courage and shame and vulnerability. And she puts it like this: vulnerability is not weakness. It is our most accurate measure of courage. So that quote comes directly from the source, directly from the person that first started to understand the connection of shame and depression, anxiety, stress, and vulnerability and happiness. Do you hear me? Vulnerability is connected to happiness. Backing away from vulnerability and that shame is connected with depression, anxiety, all the stuff we don't want to live in. So today I'm going to walk you through why we avoid vulnerability so much. Why do we hide? I'm going to walk you through why we need to stop. Why it's important that you stop hiding. And most importantly, how you build the ability to be vulnerable in real, practical ways. All right, so let's talk about just the reality of vulnerability in our life. Why do we avoid it? Well, think about what you were told when you were a kid. A lot of this starts in the family of origin, right? A lot of this starts in the way the Western culture is kind of situated and created. How many times when you were a little kid did someone say, "Stop crying, don't cry. Dry your tears, dry your crocodile tears"? Say that all the time, right? To our kids. We're taught when we're hurt to not admit that we're hurt. If you're a guy and you're watching this, that's especially true for you. Think about, you're in a big game, you're a football game or a basketball game or something like that, and you get hurt. What do you try to do? You try to walk it off. How many times how many times did I hear that 30, 40 years ago? Walk it off. Hey, walk it off. Suck it up, buttercup. Don't admit that you're hurt. And I love these stories, right? I still love it. I love the stories of these guys that he broke his ankle, but he played through the championship game. Like these amazing stories of grit and resilience, and all that stuff is awesome. And I'm not complaining about that. That requires deep character and integrity to just play through the pain. But the issue is that there's a difference between playing a football game and living life. There's a difference between playing a basketball game and being married. What works in those environments just doesn't work in the majority of our life. How many times were you taught to not show too much of yourself and to not really let them see you live imperfectly? I can tell you from my experience that was a massive part of my upbringing. Don't let them see you sweat. I was raised as a pastor's kid. My dad was an evangelist. He traveled all over the country. You did not walk into church when I was a kid and be like, "Oh, yeah, here's where I'm struggling. Let me tell you where my family's kind of messed up. Let me tell you." You didn't do that. Why? Because for those of you that were raised in a church, you know this. Like the pastor's family is living in a fishbowl, right? Everybody's looking at you. And the pressure to just feel perfect was immense. You couldn't show weakness. You couldn't mess up. It was just a ton of toxic messages. And that sense of perfectionism. And there was even a deodorant commercial when I was a kid. It was Sure deodorant. I remember it like it was yesterday. I loved it because they'd have all these people, and the whole tagline was never let them see you sweat. Doesn't matter what's going on. Don't let them see you sweat. I was like, yeah, never let them see you sweat, man. Never show vulnerability. Never show anybody. And look, does that work in some situations? Yeah. I don't want my surgeon to cry. I don't want to wake up from my surgery and my surgeon just be like, I don't know, man. I don't know how it went. Could have gone okay, but maybe not. We need confidence. There needs to be moments where things need to be right, perfect. I want my pilot to be perfect. I get it, right? I don't want my pilot to be like, well, I don't know about this. I'm not too confident. I understand that there are moments in life where we have to project confidence and we have to trust our stuff, and we can't just roll around in the mud of our uncertainty. And I'm not encouraging you to do that. We need grit, resilience, fortitude. I think Trevor just talked about that on Mindset Monday 2 days ago. But the vulnerability piece is different. I'm not talking about you, in the way you function as a surgeon or a police officer or, some other professional. I'm talking about you in your closest, most intimate relationships. I'm talking about you when it matters. Those are the moments that we need to practice vulnerability. And what we're taught, the reason we avoid this vulnerability is we're taught literally to just protect ourselves from rejection, protect ourselves from judgment. So think about like a Navy SEAL who's going into battle. A Navy SEAL who's going into battle. If you've ever seen the pictures, I used to work with a guy that I had that worked with me at my clinics. The guy was a Marine special operator, and he showed me pictures of himself literally in battle in Afghanistan. And the guy had all this body armor on. I mean, I feel like you could have shot him in 99% of his body, he'd have been fine because he was covered up. No one was going to penetrate him. And the armor that the Navy SEALs and the Marine Special Operators use is designed to protect them. But what we don't understand is that you're wearing armor every day. We're trained to wear armor every day, but it's not to protect us from bullets. It's to protect us from our own emotional life, right? It looks like this pretending. It looks like perfectionism. It looks like saying, I'm fine when I'm not fine at all, right? So I want you to kind of think through am I wearing this emotional armor? Am I metaphorically like a Marine special operator who's going into battle every day, who's going into battle every time you show up with your wife or your kids or your friends, and you're like, no one is going to get through. No one's going to penetrate me. No one's going to be able to see me. Because here's the issue. That armor doesn't just keep the pain out. It also keeps the love and the connection and the authenticity and the purity and the wholehearted living out. So why do we do it? Because we're afraid that if people saw the real us, that they'd just run. We're not socialized to let people really see us. I remember, and I might have even mentioned this on Wellness Wednesday before because I talk about it so often. I was meeting with a client 20 years ago, and this guy had it all together. I mean, just seriously, the world by the tail. First time I met him, I was like, man, what is this guy doing here? He's so competent, so capable, talented. And I remember we got into therapy, and I'll never forget the words he said. He said, Mike, if people really knew me, if they really knew me, man, they would run. He said, it's a matter of time. I've learned this in my life. It's a matter of time until people reject me. And so here's the paradox of all this. When we come to relationships with this perspective, when we come to relationships kind of with our armor on and we're keeping everybody out, and I don't want you to see me, and I want you to see the person that I want you to see. I'm going to project this mask to the world. I'm going to project the guy who's got it all together. I'm going to project, the lady who's going to work and bringing home the bacon and cooking it up in the pan. And when we live our life like that, we keep people from connecting with us. It's not a very engaging posture to live in. Remember, I said the armor keeps the pain out, but it also keeps all the love and connection and authenticity out. And what people don't understand is we feel like people are attracted to our ability. We feel like they're attracted to our performance. They're attracted to like all the things we can do and say, when really what they're attracted to is our authenticity. And people connect to us when we're real. And that's ultimately the benefit of vulnerability. And I think that's why we've got to attack this together. How do you allow yourself to say, okay, what would it look like if I took all this emotional armor off and I let people really start to see me? There's some incredible benefits, because vulnerability is the birthplace of all the things that we really want most. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love. It's the birthplace of joy and creativity. It's the birthplace of connection. And research shows that people who live more vulnerably, who allow themselves to just kind of be seen, and they're not pretentious and they're not presenting a front, they experience stronger relationships, higher resilience and grit. Think about that. More effectiveness as leaders, and less anxiety and shame over time. It's literally mind-blowing. Because when you're wearing the armor, when you're putting that face on to go into the world, and I only want people to see this, and I don't want them to see my mistakes, and I can't believe you criticized me, and I'm going to be so defensive if you have a problem with me. Like when we're there, we struggle to connect. We struggle to be authentic, and people they're not connected to that. You're doing that because you don't want to be rejected. But by doing that, people actually reject you. You create your reality. But the research shows, I'm going to go over it again, when you start to let your guard down, when you start to be vulnerable, you experience stronger relationships, higher resilience and grit, more leadership effectiveness, and less anxiety and shame over time. It is so counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense, because we feel like we're putting all the armor on because we want to go out and we want to kind of create our reality, and we want to control outcomes, and we want to make sure that we're not rejected, or we're not put off, and we're as successful as we possibly can be, and we're as connected as we possibly can be. But the reality is that vulnerability isn't the enemy of strength. It's actually the pathway to strength. So I think about all the time I spent treating addictions, and I have spent a lot of time treating addictions. I had rehabs a few years ago. We had beds that were on our property that people came from all over the country to get treatment from us. And most of them had severe addiction to alcohol or pain pills or meth or, cocaine, doesn't matter. What I learned treating addiction is that when someone finally says, I can't do this alone, I just can't do this by myself anymore. I can't make my own rules anymore. I've got to just trust people and trust the process. When they get to that moment of finally surrendering, that moment of surrender isn't weakness. It's a breakthrough. That's when the healing starts. And guys, sometimes it would take 8 weeks. Someone's coming to our office every day, getting treatment, going through groups, dealing with doctors, and their walls are up and they just can't finally come to the end of themselves. They finally can't just allow people to see them. And you talk about a shocker. When that person struggling with addiction finally recognized, wait, the answer to everything I'm dealing with, the answer to my addiction, the way I quit creating all this chaos in my life is if I do the very thing that seems so counterintuitive. It's when I surrender. And while that surrender feels like weakness in the moment, man, you talk about power. When someone comes to that point, man, the breakthrough is incredible. The healing is incredible. And if you're someone who's watching this video and you're struggling with addiction, I'm telling you, trust me, most of what you're dealing with is a vulnerability issue. And I'd even extend that to the rest of you. If you don't have an active addiction to alcohol or drugs or something like that, do you have an addiction to this thing? Do you have an addiction to people pleasing? Do you have an addiction to pornography? Do you have an addiction to shopping and spending? Because all we're doing in our culture is filling ourselves up with the next thing. I just want to get away from my emotion and feel something. So I'm going to buy like crazy on Amazon because it just feels good. Or I'm going to play some stupid game because I can win a token. Or I'm going to watch some dumb video as I doom scroll because I crave that dopamine. I want to get away from all of the stuff that's out there that feels so risky. And the answer to this is vulnerability. All right. So how do you start the healing? How do you start the breakthrough? How do you get to a point to where you can start to actually work on being vulnerable? I'm going to give you some very practical strategies to build vulnerability. And what I think we're going to do, I'm looking at the time here. I'm going to go through a couple of these and then we're going to press pause one more time. And I'm going to finish up next Wednesday, and we'll keep going through the strategies to build vulnerability. And if you're listening, you're planning on coming to this live event next week, I want you to have some questions ready for me, okay? Because we'll do the strategies to build vulnerability, and then we'll end next week with your questions about how you really break through and make changes. So let's get into just what do you do if you're ready to just take the armor off and say, screw it. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to pretend. I don't want to feel like have to be perfect every second of every minute. All right. Number 1, start by just naming your emotions. You can't share what you can't name. Make sense? You can't be vulnerable about stuff that you don't even know what's going on inside of you. How are you supposed to go to someone in an authentic way and say, hey, here's what's really going on with me, if you don't really know what's going on with you? So you need to allow yourself to get comfortable with starting to even understand your emotion. I call it emotional literacy. And it's the first step. And a lot of people just use 3 feelings. And I know this because I work with people in therapy all the time. And what a therapist, what a psychologist and mental health counselors do in therapy, Well, some of what you do, it's not all of what you do, but some of what you do is like, well, how you feeling? Most people are happy, sad, or angry. Like, and that's best case scenario. Most of the time I say, well, what's going on inside of you when that's happening? And they'll say, well, I feel like, and then they'll say a thought. I feel like I just want to leave the room and not go back to the meeting. Or I feel like he just doesn't love me anymore. Well, those aren't feelings, those are thoughts. You're just saying, I feel like, and then you're adding thoughts to the end of the sentence. That doesn't make it a feeling. That you're just very, very cognitive. You're very much in your head. So I hear that a lot in therapy. But if I can get someone to actually move into like an emotional moment to say, okay, here's what I'm actually experiencing emotionally. It's happy, sad, or angry. That's the extent of their repertoire. But what if you had a more rich understanding of what was actually going on inside of you? Disappointed, hopeful, lonely. Like the depth of being able to understand what's going on inside of you is a prerequisite for you to actually have vulnerable, healthy relationships. And I'm going to talk again to the guys that are watching this. We are not socialized for this. And I know that. I know that because I was not socialized for this. And I still struggle significantly with trying to figure that out sometimes. What am I actually even feeling? Like apart from pissed, I'm angry. Well, anger is, all that does is just cover up the other stuff, right? We feel powerful with anger. As guys, that's pretty much the only emotion that most men will let themselves feel. How do you feel? Angry. Well, you didn't get the job. How do you feel? Angry. Okay. The person cut you off in traffic. How do you feel? Angry. It's just like anger is the only thing that feels safe. But I'm here to tell you that emotions are part of the human experience. It's just how we're built. And denying that you have emotions doesn't make you not have emotions. Make sense? And I want to tell you that when you let yourself start to access your emotional life and start to even understand what's going on inside of you, you actually have more power over the emotion. A lot of people don't recognize that. They're like, I don't want to be a little pansy who just feels all the time. And listen, ladies, I get it. I understand. People have been calling you over emotional your whole life, right? And you probably don't have much emotional regulation because you've pushed so much down. And that's okay. We're working on this. But the less awareness you have of emotion, the more power it actually has over you. Is that wild? So here we spend all this time trying to repress, push down. I don't want to feel like this. I'm strong. I'm resilient, so I can't acknowledge it. And when you suppress emotion, it actually has more power over you. If you don't acknowledge that you're angry, you're likely to let that anger get the best of you. Make sense? It's mind-boggling based on our training because we're taught, be strong, suck it up, don't feel. That's for the other people. I'm telling you that if you can sit with someone and say, I am feeling disappointed, and just own it and be real about it, you actually have power over it. When you take an emotion and suppress it, it's like putting a ball under the water in the pool. If you take that ball, put it under the water, and then you put another ball under the water, and then you suppress another emotion and suppress another emotion and suppress another emotion. Before you know it, you've got 13 balls under the water. And it takes every bit of energy that you have to keep all that emotion suppressed. Think about it. If you've got 13 balls under the water, man, every muscle in your body is contracting, just trying to it's just like keeping everything down. And then it's one little ripple that comes along and it throws you off balance. And those balls don't float gently above the surface, do they? No. You lose your balance with 13 balls in the water. I mean, it's an explosion of emotion. And some of you are dealing with that. And you don't understand why you can't regulate yourself and why your anger is unrestrained and why it causes problems all the time. And why do I yell at my kids when I know I shouldn't? And why do I get in arguments with my spouse when I know it's not productive? And why do I always have arguments with friends when it's because you've repressed so much out of that shame. You've repressed so many emotions. You just push everything down, and you're trying to be strong and you're trying to be resilient. But the truth is, it's weakness. The weakness is when you push it down. The weakness is when you can't acknowledge it. The strength comes from, let me take a ball at a time, one emotion as it comes up, one emotion at a time. Let me just be honest about it. That doesn't make you weak. It actually gives you power over the situation. It actually helps you regulate yourself. The funny thing is that guys are taught not to feel emotion. And there are a lot of guys that literally ruin their life with unrestrained emotion. A lot of guys, you've been divorced 3 times because you can't regulate yourself. A lot of guys that you don't have a friend in this world because you don't know how to deal with people. A lot of guys that you don't have a real relationship with your kids because you can't be vulnerable, because you have to be perfect all the time. And I'm telling you, the strength comes when you allow yourself to actually feel. It doesn't make you a pansy. It makes you the strong one, the one who has insight, the one who has wisdom, the one who has stability. All right. The only other one, I've got a lot more strategies for vulnerability going forward. I'm going to give you one more today. So the first one today was to just learn how to acknowledge your emotion, how to just feel it. The second one is you use the 1, 2, 3 rule. And Brene Brown, this lady who wrote about shame, she's the one that I first heard this from, or I read it from. And she says, not everyone gets to access your story. Not everyone gets to access your story. Not everyone has unlimited, unchecked, unilateral access to all the stuff that's going on inside of you. As a matter of fact, that's kind of messed up. That's the opposite of what you want. And the 1, 2, 3 method says that there's certain levels of relationships that you have. And some people, like the people in level 3, random coworkers, just like people on social media, they don't get access to like your heart. They don't need access. You don't want them to have access to your heart. You don't have to go around like crying to everyone that you see like, oh, well, the divorce is not going good. You don't need to do that. That's not what real vulnerability is. Real vulnerability is saying, okay, I need boundaries. I don't need to get on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and share videos about how messed up my mom was when I was growing up. I literally saw that the other day from someone that was in leadership in an organization in my town. And I was like, what in the world is going on? I was watching, and this lady was talking about all the issues that she had with her mother 30 years ago, and how screwed up her mother was, and how messed up she was, and how she ruined her life. And like that is not the time or place to talk about your mommy issues. Like, it's very, very poor boundaries. So know that when we're talking about vulnerability, we're not talking about just becoming this gushy mess of emotion with everybody you come in contact with. That's not vulnerability. That's called like really bad boundaries. Okay? Got level 1 people, level 2 people, level 3 people. Level 3 people, they don't get access. How you doing? I'm doing great. Because they don't have a right to your emotion. Level 1 people, like the people in your circle, like these are my people. Those are the people that you take the risks with. Like, hey, here, I've got nothing to prove. I'm not going to be defensive. I don't have anything to be defensive about. I'm a child of God, created in His image. I have inherent value and worth. I've got nothing to prove. Yes, I've been struggling with this. It sucks. Those are those people in the inner circle. they need to see your heart. They need that vulnerability. They need to know what's going on inside of you. Otherwise, you come across as someone who literally just doesn't need relationships or people. And you wonder why you're disconnected. Well, that's why. I don't know why I can't build relationships. I don't know why I struggle to feel close. I'll tell you why. Because you're not letting people see you. And people in level 1 are the ones that need to see you. Now, level 2, they can get some info from you, right? You're not like a closed book. So, people in the neighborhood, oh, hi, I saw you wrecked your car. Yeah, it's kind of tough, man. I was on this phone call, and you don't have to put up the wall with everyone. And people in level 2, they're going to get some of the basic information, they're trustworthy, they're safe, but they're not in level 1. Everybody needs their 12. So think about it like this. Jesus, who, was one of the wisest people to ever walk the face of the earth, right? All God, all man. Even Jesus had 12. He had 12 people he handpicked to say, okay, I'll share your burdens, I'll take your burdens, but you can share mine too. It's like crazy when you think about it, right? Like the Last Supper, for those of you that are Christians, like you understand like the value of that. This is like that's a huge part of the faith. And before that, what is it? Is he walking in and he's like, yes, wash my feet, my disciples? No. He's like, you wash my feet, I'll wash yours. Like there's these 12 people, this vulnerable act where God is literally letting someone care for him. He looked at the disciples that he said he loved, and he said, you pray for me. Wild, right? Like this isn't just about me doing ministry to you and taking care of you. And he looked at people and said, I'm the leader. I'm the Messiah. Like I'm the man, but I need you to pray for me. Those were his 12. They weren't his neighbors. They weren't his brothers, his family. They were people that were handpicked because he knew they had the qualities. He knew that they were safe. And look, they messed up. They betrayed him. I mean, they're humans, right? But they were the kind of guys that he would say, these guys I can really let my guard down with. Those are his level 1. Those are his 12. You need your 12. You need your 12. And it's mutually burden bearing. It's people, I can bear your burdens, but you can bear mine. And some of you have lots of relationships with people that are super close and they love you, man. They're invested in, but you know what they don't do is you don't ever give them a chance to take care of you because you don't want to be that vulnerable. You want to be the one in the helping position all the time. The way you start to build vulnerability is to identify level 1, level 2, level 3, and then start to make decisions and take some risks to be vulnerable, especially with your 12. All right, guys, this is fun. I'm going to come back next week. I'm going to give you some more strategies for how to build vulnerability. So far, we've got just like labeling your emotions. Number 2, we've got level 1, level 2, level 3. Next week, I'm going to give you maybe 7 or 8 more ways that you can begin to just build vulnerability. And then we're going to end with some questions where you guys live right in the moment, ask me some questions, and we'll kind of close out this whole little series we did on shame, guilt, and vulnerability. All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity.